evening. You're watching To The Point. I'm Preeti Chaudhary, and India right now standing on the cusp of etching lunar history. Let's take you now through the latest news break that is just about coming in. And the Prime Minister, even though he is in South Africa, Johannesburg, attending the BRICS summit, will not miss out India's date with lunar history. The Prime Minister will join Chandrayaan team virtually and post-landing. Well, the last time around, figuratively, the Prime Minister had led his shoulder to Isro scientists to possibly shed a tear of making it, but just not quite. This time around, where India is in kissing distance of the moon, just to say it, 30 kilometers away is where India's lander is. The Prime Minister, post-landing, will be joining the team of Isro, hopefully viewers, in celebration as the country also comes together to pray and cheer for Chandrayaan 3. All right, so what is expected? Lander Vikram says hello, just about 25 kilometers from the moon. The highly anticipated landing of Chandrayaan 3, viewers, is just hours away. All fingers crossed.
India's moon mission is hours away from a historic climax. Chandrayaan's Vikram lander is approaching the moon rendezvous. Saying hello to Chandrama, snapping breathtaking images from close vicinity, showing moon in all its glory, with details of the unexplored far side, complete with billion-year-old craters. Indian Space Agency asserted that the mission is fully on track. The system is undergoing regular checks to ensure a smooth touchdown.
It is almost similar to what we designed or developed for Chandrayaan 2, except for instead of orbiter now, because orbiter is anyway working fine and it is still useful and it is giving a lot of important data which will be utilized for Chandrayaan 3 landing also. So we decided that orbiter will be replaced by a propulsion module. Which duty is to take it to the orbit of moon surface.
Isro is not taking any chances, especially after crash of the Russian moon mission. Keeping another landing site ready for Sunday touchdown if parameters aren't ideal on Wednesday. Former Isro chief K. Sivan broke down the final maneuvers moments before the planned touchdown.
I want to start by asking you about the lunar mission of the Russians, which crashed very unfortunately over the weekend without being able to land successfully. You know, given what has happened with the Lunar 25, which was Russia's first attempt to land a spacecraft off the moon, and that ending in failure, you know, would that increase the levels of anxiety of the team in the Space Center of Isro at this moment? Does that make you one extra level more anxious?
No, it is not so. First of all, lunar mission failure and this one, they are not related. Luna, actually, that is its own system, its own the sensor, thrusters, and it may have its own characteristics. But we have our own system, our own thruster, our own sensors, which it has been functioning very nicely and without any problem. And till now we are achieved what we want in a perfect way. And I am sure that this will repeat on 23rd also. So we will get a good landing. And we are not getting disturbed by the Luna 25 failure. They are not related. They are not a similar system. They are different system. Okay. So we are confident that we'll be able to achieve without any problem.
A billion cheers, prayers and wishes are meanwhile pouring in as India roots for Chandrayaan 3.
एक बहुत बड़ा इतिहास भारत के सभी विशेषज्ञों ने, हमारे वैज्ञानिकों ने रचा है और प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में भारत नई ऊंचाइयां तो छू ही रहा था। भारत का तिरंगा केवल देश के अंदर नहीं लेकिन विश्व पटल पर अब हमारी यही कोशिश है कि वो तिरंगा चांद पे भी गाड़ के रखा जाए।
Special pujas are being held in temples and namaz is being offered in mosques, all for Chandrayaan's success. The lander is expected to touch down on Moon's south polar region at 6:04 p.m. on Wednesday. We wish India a grand success in conquering the Moon. With Akshita Nandagopal in Bengaluru and Milan Sharma in Ahmedabad, Bureau Report, India Today.
All right, India standing literally on the cusp of etching lunar history. I want to quickly cut across to my colleague Akshita Nandagopal, who's going to be tracking all developments from Bengaluru. The Prime Minister as well would be joining in virtually, and this time hopefully after landing. In the studio with me is Raj Chengappa, Group Editorial Director, publishing the India Today Group. Also joining me is Dr. P. Srikumar, former Group Director, Isro Satellite Center. He is also currently the Director of Manipal Center for Natural Sciences. Akshita, I'm going to quickly come to you and free you up because you have a very early morning and which is going to go down all the way till 6 p.m. tomorrow. So what can we expect? A sense of excitement where Bengaluru is concerned, all eyes focused on the big landing this time. Hopefully it happens.
I'm seeing a lot of GSLV prototypes being put up across Bengaluru because everyone's really excited, Preeti. I see a lot of people gathering also at Isro headquarters, at planetariums, all to get to know Chandrayaan-3 a little better before the landing actually takes place tomorrow. But Isro is 100% confident. I can tell you that, from my conversations with Isro scientists, they've all been saying one thing. They're saying we're all cool, we're calm, we're collected right now. So that gives us a sense of how right now all of us should also feel, because I know that, I'm not sure about you, but I'm very excited but also slightly a tinge nervous over what's going to happen tomorrow. The ISRO scientists so far, and based on also the posts that they've put out, have said that everything's going as per schedule, that everything is on track for tomorrow. Remember that when the landing actually happens, to some extent it's in their hands, to a large extent it isn't, because this time around a lot more is automated. So it'll come down to their design, it'll come down to, the thrusters, the sensors and the cameras that are on board lander Vikram. We're all hoping for the best, and as you pointed out, Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2019 was here in Pune on the outskirts of Bengaluru. He was with the ISRO scientists, and we can't forget those heartbreaking images of when K7 broke down and the Prime Minister hugged him and consoled him. This time around he's not here, so he's going to be joining virtually and watching live as the lander touches down.
Well, you're right there. The Prime Minister there literally last time around had lent a shoulder for the ISRO scientists to cry on because you were just there but just not quite. Hopefully, like I said, fingers crossed, tomorrow is going to be very different. Akshita is going to be joining us 7 a.m. onwards as we chair for the Chandrayaan-3. Thank you, Akshita, for joining us. And like Akshita says, very hopeful, very positive, but really, can't really miss the butterflies in your stomach because a lot of it us watched with bated breath the last time, tinged with disappointment, and now the build-up starting again. I want to cut across to Raj Chengappa, Group Editorial Director, who was there the last time around in Bengaluru. This time, Raj, how do you see it different? And what is it where ISRO is concerned that they've done differently from the last time, that they clearly seem to be a lot more confident this time around?
Well, talking about last time, it was around this year, I think August 20th, when we were all at outside the mission control room where the media was, and we were watching the television, and as we thought it was going to be a success, the descent phase was all there, and then the last minute or so things went terribly wrong. The spin drop silence. What I think ISRO has done after that, I mean, we all grieved with the ISRO scientists and felt their sadness, but I think what ISRO has shown over the years is great resilience. They have come back from failures. If you recall, right from the time, and I've been covering space since 1980 onwards, when Dr. Kalam was there. And his first launch, which he's known for, the SLV-3, which the first satellite launcher that India did, failed. And the next launch was a success. So failure and success are, go together, as we've seen the Russian aircraft Lunar 25. Despite the kind of experience they had with Soviet Union having over 60 launches at that time, it did fail. And even at that time, between the 1959 and 1976, when lunar launches were abundant, almost 50% of them failed, despite them, despite people landing on the moon, particularly, Americans only landing on the moon and demonstrating their capability. So I think what ISRO has done this time is that it has studied very carefully what were the issues. And what were the issues? There were three major problems that seemed to have happened, and it started, of course, with the propulsion. As it was coming down, it was moving too fast. The result of that started cascading, because the moment you are not getting the right force, see, it was at a height of 6,000, the speed of around 6,000 kilometers per hour, that's 5 times the speed of sound. So if you take your fighter jets, they travel at twice, Mach 2, this is traveling at Mach 6. You have to bring it down to walking speed. So you start cutting on the descent phase, you start reducing it, so it starts descending like this. Now around this point, just about 400 meters above the moon, there was to be a maneuver that would then bring it vertical and make it land. It is at this time, just before that, there was a excess acceleration that was there. That confused the guidance system. That created its own anomaly. And we were shocked when we saw the satellite turn and then lost communication. At that particular time, two other things happened. You had the guidance and then the control, and then it crashes. So what ISRO has done this time, from what I understand, and I spoke to the chairman yesterday itself, Dr. Somnath, and he was saying that they've built what he calls a rugged spacecraft, which is at every stage they have built in for failure. So you have, if he talked earlier of, what they call a successful attempt, where you think everything is going to be successful, this time they plan for everything to fail. So they've got redundancies, whether it's in the propulsion system, they're carrying more fuel this time. So, that gives them greater time in case there's a misdirection, they have enough fuel to do that. They've developed guidance systems that take care of if there's a variation, it will take, and the control systems. Now, very interestingly, Preeti, is that what they did last time was that they were going for a targeted thing. So it was like you were landing and wanting to land on a football field, exactly the size of that. This time they've expanded it to over 4 square kilometers, which gives them a much better chance of landing. Of course, let's also qualify this. Space is unforgiving. 99.9% you'd be right, 1% failure. And let's not forget, we have not tested really the landing part.
You're right there, because that's the point I was going to take on with Dr. Sri Kumar. Because P. Sri Kumar, like Mr. Chengappa said, he was there the last time around. That this time, possibly they factored in, they've recalibrated, recalculated, and factored in any possibility of failure. But ultimately, you're talking about space. Anything can happen in space.
That's correct. So there are numerous challenges, as already Chengappa has already outlined it. Issues about testing assumes certain performance of individual subsystems, and that is derived from confidence that you get through repeated tests, calculations, and so on. Now, in real space, where the vacuum is extremely high and where we cannot create such vacuum conditions on Earth, and the fact that we are restarting certain systems many weeks after launch, there's always a possibility of that. But to the best of their abilities, I think the ISRO team has done the necessary precautions, sharpened the sensors, sharpened the algorithms that are involved, necessary cross-checks have been carried out ahead of time, large number of tests from helicopters and other systems that actually simulates as best as possible the conditions that we expect to see. So this is the reason for the high confidence that currently exists. And that's about the best we can really do. And but as any electronic system or mechanical system, there's always a small percentage of possibility, but we today believe everything will work well and we'll have a fantastic day tomorrow.
Well, let's hope we have a fantastic day tomorrow. But you were talking about, Raj, the landing of the Vikram lander. But having said that, we've also chosen a part of the moon, which is, technically a lot of us are reading to be called the dark side of the moon, the south side of the moon, which is a very difficult landing is what we have been given to understand. Would you elaborate on that?
Well, essentially the fact is that, lunar temperatures vary between 127 degrees centigrade, that's above the boiling point of water, and minus 170 degrees, right? That's twice the cold of Antarctica. That's how, rugged your spacecraft has to be to do this. Now, South Pole has both its charm, because we believe that water molecules, water ice exists on the moon, and that will enable us, if it is true, to colonize the moon at some point, both for our own water needs as well as, if you look at it in terms of fuel.
It's a huge leap where research is concerned.
That's right. So the degree of difficulty increases because in the equator you've got enough sunlight and heat and everything else, but here you're given an opportunity only for 14 days unless you have your own, generating your own heat. So all the activity that you have to do on the lander has to be done within those 14 days. That's one lunar day. And then it's over, right? Because it gets too cold and your equipment gets destroyed, unless, as I said, you've got a heater or a temperature control. So the challenge in that is that, firstly, it's very rocky. See, the moon has no atmosphere. So actually what happens is there's a lot of craters hammering it. And because of that, you only have regolith, which is, sandy stuff that's there, rock cracked up because of the impact. The rest is all hard rock and craters. And the number of craters in the South Pole are much more than they are in the other side of the moon. So the degree of difficulty is that you've got very uneven terrain, high boulders that could be there, craters that are there. So for us to land, you have to choose the right spot to land. And I think cleverly, what the scientists have done this time is used Chandrayaan-2, the orbiter, to map that entire area. Last time we were using the lander cameras to sort of detect which is the best route. And now they've mapped it perfectly. So they've fed that data in. They know precisely where they want to land. And because they know the terrain, though it's a very treacherous terrain, let's not forget, right? It is able to go, and they found a spot where it is good. But there are still risks. The fact is that you are going to land these 4 pods, right? I mean, the 4 legs of the spacecraft right down there, the lander, Vikram, if it's still being called that. And any tilt like this could make it topple, right? So you have to be very careful about where you're landing, what is the degree of tilt. But the good thing is that they've built in the redundancy even for that. They have given from walking speed, if it bangs down like that, to a little running speed.
Is there a possibility this time around that the Chandrayaan could crash?
Of course.
There is a possibility.
Of course, because look, we have not tested that part, right?
Where landing is concerned.
Where landing, we've tested right up to the point where you're hovering at 400 meters.
Yeah.
The crucial part is the vertical. The spacecraft is coming at an angle like this.
Right.
And then it puts itself, vertical, and then has to come and land down like that. Now, we haven't really tested this part, which is the critical part, because you're cutting the speed from a tremendous amount to almost near zero, and your ability to hover, find the right spot, land at that spot without damage to your equipment or without toppling over.
Dr. Srikumar, would you want to weigh in on that, especially the fact that, Raj calls it a great risk, but, you can go back and take the help of literature and, get into, with great risks come great opportunity. But having said that, to pick the South Pole, trying to land there, would you want to weigh in on what Raj just said?
Yeah, one of the other challenges of going further south towards the pole of the moon is the fact that the sun does not appear very high in the horizon. So it will be less than 10 degrees or so, which means it actually produces long shadows. And these shadows are quite critical with regard to power generation, with regard to rover operations when you actually move the rover, even the landing of the lander. The lander needs to be landing in an orientation where its panels powered. The panels have to be powered in order to make sure communication from the rover to lander and lander to orbiter and back all happens as per plan. So positioning of the lander is critical, all that has been taken into account, but because of the long shadows, the fact that the sun is really at very low inclination, that adds an additional challenge to a polar landing. But at 69 degrees when we land, it certainly is the southernmost or the highest latitude at which we are actually sampling in situ, actually the regular properties with regard to using instruments on the rover. We have, for example, a laser ablation instrument called LIPS, which is the first time it's ever been used on a lunar mission. And actually ablates the rock and actually produce a plasma from which we can derive the composition of the lunar surface in this southern location. So we have a few unusual, very important scientific experiments on the rover as well as on the lander. But with all the challenges, let's look forward to a good day tomorrow.
Well, let's see. We'll only know tomorrow. It's a short time that I have, so it comes to the final question that I want to ask you both. What does it mean for India, Raj, especially at a time where so many have failed, where we are treading?
Well, I mean, if we do land,
right,
we'll be the 4th nation in the world. That's a very exclusive club of nations that have landed a craft on the thing, and as well as a rover. And that, I think, is a tremendous achievement because it's built on the back of the fact that Isro firstly mastered launchers, simultaneously mastered satellites. Right. So we have become self-sufficient virtually in launching, both launching our satellites as well as utilizing them, as we've seen. So that is a tremendous capability. But I think space scientists and my friend who's there, my fellow panelists, need further excitement. The fact is that moon is not the limit. The sky is not the limit for them. So they have to, if you have to keep your scientific talent, alert at the cutting edge of it, you have to start exploration in a much, I would say, let's do a lot more lunar missions. That's the way the world is going. We've headed to Mars, we should get back. We're doing the sun. I think these are tremendous things that boost our capability, whether it's artificial intelligence, computing, you name it. Space is at the cutting edge of all technology and has always proved beneficial to humankind.
Dr. P. Srikumar, it's an elite club that possibly India will join if that landing actually that we've shown you through AI takes place. But the question is, what next? Where does it position India, not just the elite club that we were speaking of?
I mean, the moon is not just a place to do science, as it's very clear the last 10 years. It's a place to do much more than that. Exploration of the rest of the solar system, going to Mars. The moon is a point where we actually launch new missions. India's ability to do a soft landing successfully allows the young men and women of the country to really look forward to a capacity, very unique capacity that very few countries in the world actually has, to really participate in such programs. Our private companies that are excited, looking forward to have a piece of the pie in the space sector would find this a great stimulus. So I think it is the starting of a greater revolution and an exploration program that I think India as a nation needs to see in wonderful. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate both you gentlemen for joining us. Well, till now, we'd wish the Vikram lander Godspeed, and now I would reckon slowing down and gently does it. Let's just hope it happens. Fingers crossed. You can all join us starting 7 a.m. tomorrow as we cheer for Chandrayaan. Let's hope it happens this time for us, for India.